All right, so we are live today on Lucid Deep Dives, one of the roundtables debates that happens every month on the first Saturday of the month. I love doing these conversations with whoever joins. So today, Crystal's going to be moderating it. We're going to be talking about incubation, dream incubation, the different forms of what that means to us. So yeah, thank you everybody for being here. Crystal, you can take it away.
Thank you. Okay, so today we have the amazing topic of incubation, and this is a very broad term. So we're going to see how we end up breaking it down and what interesting topics we get into and discussions. This is the fourth roundtable of the Lucid Deep Dives. The others are available on the Lucid Dreaming Initiative official YouTube channel. And so please do subscribe over there and watch the past ones on many interesting topics. But for now, we can just jump right in. So first of all, we can start with, how do you define incubation? Amina, you can go ahead if you want to.
Yeah, sure. So basically, as we know, the word incubation, in a non-dream related sense is, developing something from a small age to let it grow and flourish. So essentially, in a dream terminology, it means to either direct the type of dream content you want to have through different ways, such as like auto suggestion and programming your subconscious to, by exposing yourself to certain things that'll make you dream about certain content, whether that's lucid or not. You can also incubate a lucid dream. So basically plant the seed in your brain to become lucid. And then there's another side of the definition as well, which we'll get into, about incubating things within the dream. So when you're lucid, creating things, making things appear, which essentially is related to dream control. So I think there's levels to this definition and what it means in regards to dreaming.
That's great, thank you. Does anyone have anything to add to that in response?
Sure. So when I think about it, I think about kind of creating a dream in waking life, and with the intention to have that dream when you're sleeping, pretty much. And yeah, I suppose there's a lot of ways to make that happen. And I think I'll get into the ways that I do it, but it's kind of my general view of it is, I want this to happen in a dream, and I'm going to use mental tactics, cognitive techniques in waking life to make it happen.
Sweet, thanks. Red, would you like to add something?
I mean, that pretty much covers like what I think of it. Like when I think of incubation, I mostly just think of like out of the dream, trying to decide what will happen in a dream or what type of dream you'll have. Like that's all I think of when I hear it.
That's cool. So Amina, coming back around to you, do you agree with this definition, or?
With which definition? Like creating things that you want to dream about?
Essentially, yeah, just what they mentioned about sort of deciding what dream you would like to dream. That's how I simplified it to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that's like the basic of the definition, is basically incubating what you want to dream about. So yeah.
Sweet, yeah. We tend to, so there are a couple directions we can take this that we were mentioning earlier, where we can talk about how to incubate, or we can talk about how we already do incubate. So how does this definition line up with what I do end up dreaming? Are we defining it as that it has to be a decision for it to be incubation? And if something else ends up in my dream from waking state that I didn't purposefully try to get into my dream, that defines it as not incubated? I can present that question.
That's a good question. I think incubation comes with the, like, for me at least, the implication that it's a conscious intentional choice, but it happens naturally anyway. Like you're saying, we're naturally going to dream about things from our waking state, whether it's just, your memory bank, or things we're thinking about, content we consume, especially before bed. It's going to happen. So when we do that intentionally, we're more likely to drive that process into something that we want to dream about. So I think that's where the incubation comes in, is taking something that naturally happens, which is your waking life, manifesting itself into your dream in different ways, and using it to do something specific with your life that you want to incubate for whatever reasons. I mean, people use dream incubations for a lot of different things, which I think we can get into. But yeah, so I think it's the idea of making it intentional is important.
Yeah, that would be my thought too. Just to freestyle a little bit here. So, yeah, I mean, my first thought there was like, it's almost like incubation is, if you think about it in terms of like, you're taking the time. You think about it in terms of like, it's a chunk of time that you're taking to kind of package your intent, which is then going to, hopefully trigger in your dreams. And it doesn't, I should correct myself for like the definition that I gave, because it's not just mental and cognitive techniques. It can also be other things. Like there's a classic, a lot, you'll find this a lot more, and I wish the lucid dreaming community was more into this stuff. It's not my cup of tea, but I feel like it would help a lot of people, which is using objects and actions to kind of package your intent. And so, for example, one classic thing is I forget what it's called, but it's like it's this little thing that you make. You put a bunch of stuff in a bag. Each one of the things has some kind of symbolism. You put that in a bag and you put it under your pillow. Excuse me. So that's like you've got your intentions, you're putting it into your bag, and you're putting it under your pillow. It's like the mental side of the process, but in physical form. I think that could actually be more effective for some for a lot of people. It's something you'll find more in um, like folk magic or occultism, that sort of stuff. You don't really see that a lot in um, generally speaking, people tend to lean more towards the mental, cognitive stuff. Um, Personally, I think that kind of leaves a lot of people out. But anyway, so just to say that it's really like you're packaging an intention to, you know, um, the egg meta. I like the egg metaphor for incubation, for it to, you know, it's a word. Why am I blanking on words? So it's, the chick comes out of the egg, hatches. Yeah. So it hatches when you're sleeping, the idea, right? So yeah, but I think intention is, that's that's the first word that came up to me as well.
I mean, I do like the thing you said about using a physical thing, because I haven't heard of that, but yeah, that totally also like affects you mentally, like it's kind of like all the intense stuff that people do.
Yeah, it's like you think about almost every technique that we talk about is cognitive, mild, totally cognitive.
True.
Awake back to bed is really popular. That's not necessarily cognitive, but it's very in your head. Whereas I think a lot of people could benefit from using environmental factors like light, sound, smell, or these more complicated things like, I've thought about doing. I know, I think I did this once, but like putting a symbol on your wall or your ceiling.
Yeah.
I know people have done that, like but yeah, broadening things out. I'm always trying to kind of touch other things aside from the cognitive techniques so people are aware. Yeah.
I guess, yeah, like one of the things he said was like smells or something.
Mm-hmm.
Something that you might even notice in your dream, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, technically, like in the studies, in the literature, it's less effective than the cognitive techniques. But
Yeah, still something.
yeah, but I also don't really like thinking about things in those terms as much as well as like, well, this is the most scientifically verified technique, so this is the best one that everybody should be doing. It's like, well, actually, lucid dreaming is so much about expectations and mindset that doing it the way that you feel could work, doing it in a way that makes you feel positive about the experience. I mean, I think to me that's probably more important than doing what's, scientifically verified. Not because scientifically verified is bad or going into all that, but it's just like lucid dreaming is so dependent on mindset.
Yeah, like just like how a bunch of people, they have their own technique or whatever that fits them the most, and that's what gets them dreams. But if everyone just focused on the studies, they'd all be doing the same technique, and they'd miss out on what could be more lucids.
Yeah, we'd all be doing mild. I wouldn't be doing any dream yoga stuff. Obviously, we all worship LeBerge and everything, but
Yeah, I think it's a really personal journey, and that's really important. I mean, it's great that people are doing research on lucid dreaming and stuff, but you can't apply any blanket practice or technique to everybody. It's just not how it works, a lot of, especially if you have a small sample size or whatever, and everybody's different, different things work for different people. It's good to know what, research says and expand this, but I think it's important to, really find your own practice. Because everyone has, a different journey with it. But
yeah. So I mean, obviously it's going to take people time to figure out. Okay, this is the basic way of incubation. This is how it's kind of the general structure. But then within that, get creative. Like a lot of time, like instead of just saying, okay, I want this to happen. One thing that Charlie Morley has said and he emphasizes this a lot, and I think it's great, which is forming a relationship with your dream mind. Kind of, instead of saying, okay, this is what's going to happen. It's like, well, what if you were to say, okay, I'm going to have a dream character bring something to me as a possibility. Like, okay, so a dream character is going to come to me and tell me something or lead me on an adventure, or to where it's, instead of like mapping it all out piece by piece, you're giving the dream more leeway and flexibility. That makes sense?
Yeah.
yeah, it leaves more room for you to really get like more messages from your dreams and just deeper experience versus projecting like what your ego wants onto the dream. And I think it lets like your subconscious kind of come out a little more. And also it's like just building a relationship with all your dreams, instead of like a lot of people have, they want instant results and they get frustrated and this and that, which I understand, but it's about like, loving all of your dreams, even if you don't incubate or, your dream task doesn't work for a certain day. You keep trying, you have a consistent practice. Sometimes it might take weeks or days or months or however long to get to a certain dream goal or task or whatever. And so it's about just like loving that process and all your dreams, not just the lucid ones, not just the ones that you want for whatever reason. So yeah, that relationship with your dreaming mind, I think, is a really important thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't I may be getting ahead of ourselves, Crystal, but I wanted to it just reminded me of kind of a way that I incubated something pretty successfully. I don't know if we're there yet though.
No, I think you can go on. I was about to jump in and just reference something
cool.
that you said, actually, which reminded me, this conversation just now just reminded me of it. What you were saying about how people who lucid dream for goals might actually get more lucids, but like less. What was it exactly? I just don't remember the word.
Yeah. So I need to find this again because it was a really helpful survey, I think. It was basically a survey of lucid dreamers, and it was done by a university in Iran. So that was interesting to me. But also, the way it set up the survey was really interesting because they made it to where they had these like key data points that had really interesting cross references. So it was like, what's your frequency? How do you get lucid? And one of the ways that they had there was like a goal orientation for lucidity. Like you have a goal that you want to accomplish while you're lucid. And the interesting thing there was when you look at the cross reference between the data points, the people who had the goal orientation had a higher frequency of lucidity, but a lower length of lucids. So it was interesting because it suggests that being really like focused on a particular goal will get you lucid more often. It'll get you lucid, like it's more effective at getting you lucid. But for whatever reason, it also seems to correlate with like a shorter lucid. Right.
Interesting. Yeah, from my personal experience, that checks out because, you know, I've been lucid dreaming for a long time and I always try things and have goals every once in a while. But I do notice that, like, I don't know, for some reason, I do have shorter dreams when I'm specifically trying to do something. And I think sometimes it's because I just feel rushed or under pressure. And when I just kind of am calm and let the dream kind of naturally unfold and focus on what's in front of me when I'm lucid, I have longer lucid dreams and I can interact with things, on a deeper level, than when I'm trying to control it and do specific things that I have been thinking about. But both work. I think I could still, practice it. It's just like a gentle balance. And like, yeah, everybody has that journey of figuring out how to, use your dreams for things you want to, but also balance it out with letting your dreams speak to you as well. So, yeah, definitely like a balance.
Yeah. For me, it's like if I'm so focused on a particular goal, and I think goal focus can be really helpful. So I'm not downplaying that at all, but if I'm really focused on a particular goal, then once I'm done with it, then it's like everything builds up to that moment that I accomplished the goal. And then once it's done, the energy is just kind of like there's like an empty space, and usually I'll wake up. So, like, and I don't think that's bad necessarily. It's just that if you want to kind of transition, because a lot of people have struggle transitioning from shorter lucids to longer lucids. So I actually think incubation can be really helpful with that because instead of having because like when you say, okay, I'm going to do this in a lucid, like you're really focused. Whereas like with incubation, you might have a little more flexibility. And like, for example, this wasn't what I was going to say, but like I'll have kind of sparks of inspiration, I guess, and I'll be like, okay, I want to have this kind of dream. And usually when I do that, it works. I never know what I'm going to get though. And for me, that works the best. Not knowing what I'm going to get works the best for me. It seems like, and I think for me, when I expect something to happen, I have a lot of self-doubt and it'll kind of undermine my intention. So it seems like when I have a more vague intention, there's less questioning. Like, what is there to question? I say, I want to have an epic dream. Like, well, like, what is there to question, Um, but yeah, so like I was like, okay, I'm gonna have an epic dream. And then that night I had a really amazing lucid dream. And it was almost like, I've been doing this for a while, so I wouldn't expect everybody just to be able to do this, but it was almost like once that actually happened, when it happened in the dream, I was like, oh yeah, I wanted this to happen, and then I was lucid. So it was, I didn't even incubate lucidity. It was just like my awareness that the thing happened that I wanted to happen made me lucid.
Now, this is interesting to me too, because to my understanding, that is kind of the basis of some of the strange forms of BILD, which exists out there, occasionally incubated, I think. I think that technique's pretty weird. I mean, we don't have to really get into it, but the idea, the concept itself of trying to incubate like a specific place or something, which then you get lucid off of, I think it's a bit weird, but the concept itself can be used like when it's made more general and less specific. Because again, this idea of like what you were just saying about when you make things specific, it then like makes it harder for things to work and happen, which I agree with. I think in my specific case too, I think that it's kind of the case with these things tie together, don't they? Like control as well. When you're incredibly specific with the control, in my case, maybe, then it sometimes doesn't work too much. But like when you sort of have just like a basic idea and then you sort of let things take their course, it ends up being a lot more natural and nicer. At least in my case with control as well. And with incubation, I find that sometimes I have incubated things like, I just got reminded of something. I have incubated some things before, but like not with too much intention put on them. Sometimes it feels like trying too much can sometimes sort of be a drawback, but I'm not quite sure. I think that I heard this somewhere too, and I don't know who said it or where or when. It feels like a long time ago. Maybe it wasn't. That when people try to dream about a specific thing, apparently, they have fewer results of dreaming of that thing than if they try not to dream of that thing. Who said that and where? I don't remember. But I think it's an interesting idea if you try not to dream about something. So that it's like this strange sort of psychological switch around, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, so there's a thing called sigils, and it's using a symbol to incubate an intention, basically, or set an intention. And part of the technique there is once you've set your intention with this symbol, then you basically intentionally forget about it. Because you don't want your conscious mind doing all this work. Like this incubation in general, you're using the mechanics of your larger mind or your unconscious mind a lot more in this case than your conscious mind. I think that's probably where that relationship stuff comes in, because you kind of have to figure out how that works before you can incubate correctly and effectively, which is,
Yeah. Does anyone else want to jump in?
Oh, well, I was noticing that we've been getting some messages in the comments.
Yeah, we have. I've been kind of responding on Facebook. We were getting some questions, and one of them was to just quickly define incubation again, so I can kind of do that quickly for the people that came in late. But basically, we naturally dream of things in our waking life. It's normal for that to pop up in our dreams and for what we consume on a day-to-day basis and our memories to influence our dream content. So dream incubation is essentially deciding what you want to dream about by using that natural method and directing it intentionally with different methods, like we're talking about, different ways to do that, building your own practice, finding what works for you. And then, becoming lucid and working with your lucid dreams as well, which is another level of deciding what you want to dream about within the lucid dream. But yeah, there's definitely like ups and downs with that, depending on the depth and length of lucid dreams and how satisfied you feel with doing the dream tasks. So, yeah. Then the other part of their question was about narcolepsy, which I don't personally have any experience with, so I can't necessarily comment on that. But I do sleep a lot, so I don't know if that has something to do with my ability to lucid dream. And I'm not sure what the research says on that, but I'm sure there is a lot of narcolepsy research. I don't know about lucid dreaming related, though.
Yeah, there's some, but not some I've read recently. Sorry.
I was trying to say that personally, if I had to guess, being in a slightly sleepy state for most of the day might just sort of lower your awareness. But that is literally just my incredibly surface level guess as to how that could have any effect or correlation. But it could totally be like the other way around in so many ways. But anyway, that was just my take.
Yeah, I'd be actually curious to know if people who do experience narcolepsy have more or less lucid dreams. I actually don't know, but that'd be an interesting thing to study.
I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure there is some. I mean, there's obviously a lot of research, so I'm just Google searching real quick. There is a lot of research. Generally speaking, yeah, there's more frequency for those with narcolepsy. And I've even met a couple people online who I think they were narcoleptic and they lucid dreamed more than they wanted to. And so they're actually trying to figure out ways to stop lucid dreaming so much. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I actually have heard of that, which is what they're saying in the comments too. And yeah, that makes sense. And it's interesting that you say that, because a lot of people do want to incubate peaceful, dreamless, restless, dreamless, just restful sleep, because they do get very consciously exhausted from being lucid all the time, which we also see with what we call omni, essentially people that are like lucid in every dream. But yeah, so that's quite interesting as well, how that can get exhausting. But yeah, even so, I think dream incubation can come in handy because you can use it to try to balance it out. And they also say that meditation kind of helps as well.
Yeah, I think that's one of those, narcolepsy is one of those things where I mean, the people that probably I've talked to about it probably already saw a healthcare professional. Obviously, that's like going to be something somebody would need to do. I think people I've talked to are kind of searching for solutions. It's tough to provide solutions because you're not always there with lucid dreaming. It rarely is something going to work for two people the same way, and so it's difficult to say, oh yeah, just do this thing and you'll get this result. So yeah, I guess there's stuff you can try. But yeah, I think Joe is asking about the ease of getting into a lucid state has slipped out of their grasp, and I can relate to that quite a bit because I lucid dreamed pretty much effortlessly when I was a kid, and then stopped for a while, came back to it, and when I came back to it, I had to relearn everything. So That might just be something you need to do, and something that may have helped you get lucid extremely easily may have changed. We oftentimes psychologically change without realizing it until, a long time down the road. So at that point, I would start experimenting with lucid dreaming techniques and exercises.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, me too. It changes over time as our life changes. Our dreams kind of evolve with that, and so I think it's always like it has ebbs and flows. With our practice and how involved we are and how lucid we get. And I think that's normal to go through these periods. But I think even so, there's a way to reincorporate it back into your life and um, just kind of incubate lucidity back into your dreams in general. So, yeah, it's an interesting journey, and it kind of goes back to just the overall dream work journey.
Yeah, that word dream work. That's what a lot of people use kind of in place of incubation. And a lot of, like dream work covers a ton of different things, but that's like if you want to find that on the internet, like doing dream work stuff, that's where it's not necessarily focused on lucidity, and it's more just broadly focused on dreams. And they're literally people are making up new ways to do dream work every day. So yeah, no limits.
Yeah, definitely. And there's so many different ways. Somebody commented on Instagram and said that they take short naps during the day, and that's like just another way, depending on everyone has different sleep cycles and schedules and that, so it's like um whatever your dream work practice is like. I think there's no right or wrong. I mean, um, just because one study said that one technique was more effective to that, particular experiment or whatever, we can know what helps people on a general scale, but you shouldn't take that as just facts or anything. Like, I always encourage people to experiment things for themselves and try things for themselves before they just decide off of what they read, which is good to have resources, of course, but yeah, it's all about personal trial and error. And I think that's just with anything dream work related. So yeah.
Yep.
Another question. I know this may or may not be incubation related, but I thought it was interesting that Joe commented if we've ever had lucid dreams where you are in another person's body, confirmed by reflections. And I always thought this was interesting, like when it came to dream characters, because I mean, I mostly dream as myself, but there are dreams where I'm another point of view or another avatar or dream body, so to speak. Um, Definitely happens. And sometimes it's a completely different just reality where I'm not even conscious of my current identity. Um, so it's interesting how we can have different dream points of view. And sometimes when you're lucid or whatever, I'll look in the mirror and I'll be like a different person, which is kind of weird. But yeah, it definitely happens. And it's a fun thing to play around with when you get into like dream control and shape shifting and things like that.
Yeah, it reminds me of I was looking in a mirror in my bathroom in a lucid dream, and I was just like looking and then looking away, and I was just like taking my beard on and off. Like I was looking at the mirror, it's on, looking away, looking back, it's off. It's that could actually be an
I should
interesting
try that.
yeah, it could be an interesting just to like practice dream control, because I'm familiar with both of those looks. I don't have to really think about what it looks like. So I've seen myself in the mirror so many times. Um, but yeah, there you go. There's a little nugget for everybody to try dream control.
That's cool. Thanks. Yeah, I think doing simple things can be fun sometimes, except like at the same time. Then you get to the topic of like, what are you practicing there? Do you need to practice dream control? But that's like a whole help, isn't it? I think it would just be confidence based, wouldn't it? That's what you're getting. Right. I
Well,
think
yeah,
I agree with that.
yeah. I mean, and that's like when I was talking about, oh, I'm just gonna have an epic dream. I didn't really put any thought into it. I didn't try to get to a certain state of mind. There wasn't like, okay, now I'm satisfied with what I've done, I think it'll happen. There was none of that. It's just I know myself well enough to know what kind of intention I need to set to get results. And so once I hit that spot, it produces that confidence, and then that confidence becomes so much more effective. Because once you have confidence, you don't even have to think about it. It's just it's going to happen. So I guess that's another aspect of incubation. But for me, like I was going to share this earlier, one of the first times I felt like I started to understand incubation was there was a particular question I had about lucid dreams, and I wanted to find out from a guide. Like I'm big into like learning about lucid dreaming from dream characters and things in the dream. I think that our mind has a lot of capacities that we don't really it's hard to imagine that it's possible. But I think a lot of these things are in our mind. So I like learning. Like I learned how to lucid dream from a lot of what I learned was from a lucid dreaming guide in my lucid dreams. So it's like, how did, as a 7 or 8-year-old or 9-year-old, like how did I have a dream character that knew more about lucid dreaming than I did and taught me how to do things? Like that's so odd. And so I wanted to, there was this kind of spark of inspiration. It was like, I realized that if I could just manipulate my emotions well enough, I could believe and have the confidence to get lucid, and I could be lucid every night. And so I incubated, set an intention basically every night. I didn't do like a lot of visualization or anything like that. I was just setting my intention. And I did that for about a month every night. It took about a month before, I finally had the dream. And so, yeah, and that's even, I was an experienced lucid dreamer at that point. So if you have a specific idea in mind, it's probably just a matter of time. If you're able to remain consistent, yeah, I mean, it could take up to a month or more of just daily setting that intention.
That's cool. That's a nice example. Thanks. Hi, Strifle. I want to say hi. We're just like having a casual chat because there's not many of us and it's a cool topic, so we're going everywhere today.
Awesome.
Do you want to
doing well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll jump. I'll do like a triple flip right off the diving board, right into the deep end without any prior preparation for hearing anything but the last minute and a half of what was said, because that's just what I do. Anyway, I hope everyone's having a good night.
Welcome to the deep.
Thank you so much. But yeah, I found I haven't really usually intentionally tried to incubate specific concepts, but of course, like the underlying thing is whatever we think about a lot tends to show up in our dreams. And so I find myself dreaming about the things that if I'm dwelling on something or thinking a lot about something, I dream about it in one way or another. Watching Star Trek Voyager, I've had so many Star Trek dreams lately. It's ridiculous. I just had Chakotay's, the first officer from that ship, in one of my dreams last night, where they were crash landed on a planet, and there was a whole bunch of them getting assimilated by the Borg. And so just thinking about things a lot, thinking about Star Trek has me dreaming about it, and thinking about specific characters and people has me dreaming about them. And so it tends to happen a lot. As far as like a dream character knowing more about lucid dreaming than me, again, that comes down to kind of like the expectations of what you think will happen. The emotions are a big part of it. Controlling emotions, self-control, understanding yourself and what you believe, what you're thinking, how you're kind of associating things with each other. Really big. I've always been the advocate that dream control is ultimately self-control, controlling what you think about, controlling what you believe, how you're associating things, your emotional responses, what you're expecting to happen. It's ultimately self-control at the end of the day. And yeah, I hope everyone is having a good evening so far. I'm glad I could actually pop in for a bit.
Yeah, it's been going well so far.
Yeah, I think so. We can. Well, so what you said about Star Trek growing in kind of made me think. Well, this is kind of another alternative definition of incubation that I had, because we just defined it as like intentionally putting things into your dream. But what if that was unintentional? And then it ends up in the dream because of the amount that it's going on in your head in waking state, but you're not intentionally putting it into the dream. Does that still go under the umbrella of incubation? That's kind of the second question which was asked in this session. I don't know. Amina's evil clone is back. This is so scary. Okay, yeah. So that's just the thing that I got reminded of.
And I do want to comment on the dream incubation and like having shorter dreams.
Skyfall. Sorry guys, I had to switch to my other mic, but yeah, this has been interesting. And I like what you all said about confidence. I think it's important to note that confidence is such a big part of like dream incubation and lucid dreaming too. Like being confident in what you're trying to, achieve in the dream, or just really in general being confident in yourself and in your dreams and in your recall ability and all that stuff. It plays a big role, like what we tell ourselves about our skill set and about our practice. So yeah, I just think that's important to say. And I like this quote too about dream control. That's like, wimpy requests get wimpy results. And I've kind of noticed that's true for me. Like when I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can do this, I don't know if I can fly or whatever, then I kind of have like a harder time controlling my dream. But then when I'm like confident and comfortable with it, it's just kind of smoother and easier. But yeah.
This to me ties back with what I was saying about not thinking about it too much as well, because that does make my confidence go down, which, yeah, I feel like it all ties together in that sense.
Yeah, for sure. And somebody else said, well, Joe again in the comments talking about how they talk to their kids about lucid dreaming and dreams and that kind of stuff. And I think that's cool. That's actually like, I guess it's kind of on topic, but that's one of my personal like interests within lucid dreaming is like working with like kids and just like younger people, and kind of establishing that language of like paying attention to your dreams and like gaining control, which I think children are way more natural at, which I think is cool. So yeah, that's really good that you're able to like guide them through that and like be somebody that they can trust to like share dreams and stuff.
Before Stifle jumps in, I'd like to say, as someone who has been on Dream Cafe for over a year now, I am very experienced with working with children. Anyway, Stifle, go ahead.
I know exactly what you mean there, honestly. Although I would classify, there is a bit of a difference between working with teenagers, working with tweens, who we tend to see a bit, and working with children like 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. There's now granted sometimes a teen might act like an 8-year-old, but that's not exactly and it yeah, anyway, but dealing with kids, one of the things that's easier for kids to do, and I think this is highly relevant, is belief. Kids minds are very much malleable, very easy for them to believe things, very easy to kind of simplify things. It needs to be kind of on a simpler level of understanding for a younger child. But since confidence, this all kind of flows together. Confidence and belief are pretty big and important. So if you're confident you can do something, this is a mental skill. And so if you have these beliefs and expectations that doing certain things in a helpful way, that will result in some success as a kid, I can see, yeah, it's definitely easier. It's much easier for them to suspend belief or to change how they believe and think about things. And so dream control, I think, would be naturally easier for a kid. It's much easier to come up with a way to do something and just believe that it's going to work without any extra baggage or all that lived experience contradicting what you think about a thing. So yeah, I do think that the confidence there can be an important part, especially with dream control too. I mean, if you're going into a situation you're not really confident that something's going to work, you're basically associating with failure, and you're going to cause yourself to fail in that kind of a situation. If you're just, well, maybe I'll do this, but like you're not really sure. Like what you said, getting wimpy results, Amina, is highly relevant. I've noticed that a lot myself. If I've been anxious or not really confident about something, getting results that reflect exactly my mindset in that situation. So I think that's an important thing to kind of touch upon there. But yeah, I think kids much easier to learn how to do something like lucid dream when you're younger, and you can more easily believe things and kind of control yourself in that sense. Not in the typical sense of an adult version of self control, but like changing how you think on an inner level is much easier when you're younger.
Yeah, I agree. And I love that Crystal has a experience and interest in this too. And there's a lot of like manuals online and research done on like, teaching children about lucid dreaming, particularly because children have a lot of like nightmares and stuff. So you essentially teach them incubation from a young age, like in a child appropriate way, whatever age group that may be. But there's a use for it at every phase of life. Like, confront the monster in your sleep and, talk to them or ask them with whatever, show them love, whatever, transform the dream into something more pleasant. And kids have a lot of really good results with this. So I think it's like a timeless thing. And I love that new generations are more open minded to this kind of stuff and talking to kids about their dreams. Because I didn't personally have that. But like, as we know, like as people in the lucid dreaming community, like having that conversation and community makes a big difference for like feeling confident in your dreams and feeling like you have a space to share without feeling crazy. So yeah, I think it's all related and super important.
Yeah. So just to clarify about the joke that I made, Dream Cafe doesn't technically have children that much. I mean, like it does. It does, but like not that much. Just mostly tweens and teens. But what I do observe is that generally from my non-Dream Cafe experience and also just talking to people who are older now, it's true that with children, they tend to have like good minds for sort of setting up fundamentals for lucidity. Fundamentals for lucidity, that's like the most controversial phrase ever, but anyway. And so I think that like mostly working with teens in Dream Cafe, I have to say, well, most people sort of just don't really have the attention span for it, but like that's a whole different like idea, because like if we just assume that everyone sort of does have some interest in it and start from there, I think that literally people's minds are sort of more bendable early on. But like that doesn't mean that at the same time when you get like to an older age, you also sort of gain more critical thinking and this, all of these natural changes, which can make things a lot easier as well. So I feel like almost that the technique that the sort of basic idea of a technique that you would present to different ages needs to be different. That's my only understanding of it. But that's just sort of what I get from it, but I don't really know.
So I have a question for that. I think there's some assumptions here that might not be totally solid, because the highest frequency of lucid dreaming for people's age is teen years, where like that's after your mind is creating a sense of individuality, more boundaries, and it's mostly because of nightmares. And if you listen to people that are talking about it that got lucid when they were kids, it's because of nightmares. And yeah, so I would not really agree that kids would be able to control their dreams more.
Although it sounds like you're talking almost more about natural lucidity versus. Are you talking about studies where they were specifically trying to teach kids without any comorbidities about lucid dreaming? In this case, you're talking about natural lucidity. It sounds like with nightmares, I think of in any age is probably the most dominant or predominant factor in natural lucidity for most people who have that. But are you just talking about anything like intentionally trying to teach young kids lucidity, or just nightmares and natural lucidity?
I mean, in terms of teaching kids lucidity, I haven't seen anything about that. And in the communities I've been in, barely anybody. I don't think I know anybody that had a consistent lucid dreaming practice, or whatever you want to call it, experience as kids. I've heard a lot of most naturals that I've talked to online started in their teen years. And so it's a little bit different conversation than controlling. I think it's a little bit of a leap to assume that kids would control dreams better, because they have less developed, strictures on reality.
Well, let's think about it this way. So say you're a kid and you believe in magic, you believe in Santa Claus, for example, you believe in the mythical and kind of like the innocence of youth. And then you realize that you're in a dream and you believe that because you know that you're in a dream, you can just make any of these kind of things happen. And so you kind of have these sort of thoughts that are kind of unfiltered in a way, where you have these kind of like play beliefs. Children are pretty good at imagining things, and you have these sort of play beliefs. And I think it can be really easy for someone who doesn't have inhibitions, so you don't have these preconceived notions about what can happen, to make something happen and just say, okay, I want you to go away, bye bye, and just make something disappear. If they know that they're in a situation where they can do that, I think it would be a pretty easy thing for a kid to do, honestly.
Yeah, I think the total opposite. Kids are generally speaking completely out of control. There is no control in their lives. Everything is decided for them, et cetera, et cetera. And so to imagine just, imagining somebody getting lucid and immediately knowing that they can control everything because they know it's a dream. There seems to be a lot of assumptions wrapped up into that. And so for me personally, it's also personal experience. I had a hell of a time learning dream control. Just like anybody else, when I tried to learn how to fly, I couldn't do it. I had to start with waking life, and not analogs like jumping or falling or sticking my head out the car window, and slowly building up the schemas necessary for dream control.
And
So I think it could come naturally to somebody, but I would definitely not think just because they're kids they would. I don't want people to try to, if I can just get that mindset. No, it's good. It's more than likely going to take you a lot of work.
I would push back because sorry.
Can I just quickly jump in here and say that I feel like this conversation is absolutely calling Red's name. Like, I feel like we're talking about him without talking about him. So, Steinfall, you can go ahead, and I don't want to interrupt you, but also, Red, you should go ahead after.
Sorry, DJ, I'd really like to know what age you're doing this, because if I were to ask you, for example, did you believe that you were awake, you could actually fly? Or did you believe in magic, for example? Do you believe in these things that you can just make things happen? Did you have those kind of childish beliefs, like you would call child beliefs? Because again, our beliefs and our perceptions and our mindsets influencing our dreams. Yeah, if you have a preconceived notion about something, in this case, I don't think I can actually fly because I can't fly when I'm awake. Yeah, that can be pretty hard to overcome at times, but that's not what I'm arguing for. I'm talking about someone who doesn't have preconceived notions. And yes, for a young child, self-control in the adult sense is not an easy thing for them to do. They don't have inhibitions. Again, they don't have these sort of boundaries and barriers. And they do have a lot of things decided for them, but there are things that they don't have decided for them. For example, how they play. I was a young kid. I remember being a young kid in elementary school. It might be decided when I can play and maybe what I can play with, but not how. You're free to come up with your own imagination to do things. And in that kind of realm of possibility, you have your wants and desires, in this case, in a dream state. And you don't have to fully break it down philosophically, like the ontology of a dream, where I know that I'm in a dream fully. Like you can have dream control without being lucid. It could be as much as I want something to happen and it does. That's dream control. You making a decision, I want this thing to happen, and it happens. You may not even know that you're in a dream, and you can still have dream control. And I think that can come pretty naturally to a kid. But in this case, we're talking about teaching a kid. Teaching kids some basic concepts, like, when you are dreaming, you can know it's a dream, or when you are dreaming, you can make things happen, like even on a really basic level. And again, I would like to see, if anyone has ever considered doing studies on this, because it would be kind of cool to see. And this is, I think, completely divorced in a sense from natural lucidity, because natural lucidity is in itself its own thing. So that's kind of where I wanted to push back on that a little bit.
Yeah, before Red takes out, I would just say I think it's totally irrelevant whether or not kids can get lucid and have great dream control in terms of like how a teenager or an adult's brain works. I don't, and I also think it's just a false assumption. So that's where I stand. But I know that Red has some thoughts on something.
Yeah, like with me, like I do believe a kid will learn a lot faster. Like, yeah, the whole thing said about, they have less experience, so, they're not gonna expect stuff to go wrong like we could have, with all our experience in life. But also just, they're kids, so, just like learning languages fast, they can learn lucidity and anything else real fast. And yeah.
Red, like when did you I don't remember if you're like a natural or not, or when you learned and all that. Maybe that would help.
Well, I mean, for me, like I never, like I always was lucid, but I did learn control on my own. Like I was just told you can fly. I tried it out, and then everything else was just on my own.
Yeah, for me, so I was having natural lucid dreams pretty young, like 6, 7, 8, around that time. And it was as a result of nightmares, as you guys were saying earlier. And I didn't really have anybody guiding me. Had I had somebody like I would, if I, like teaching me about lucid dreams and dream control, I probably would have learned much earlier. But I think in my teen years, I did get better at dream control as I realized that there were things I wanted to use my dreams for, and I realized I could go deeper with it. And, I got access to the internet and that kind of stuff. And I think the development of our brains has a big role on that. Like the more our frontal lobe develops as we get closer to 25, I do think that like 15 to 25 age range is really good for like expanding on these lucid skills. But regardless, I still stand on the belief that children, like you said earlier, and some people have touched on, children can, learn these types of things really easily, specifically lucidity, but also dream control. So it'd be interesting to, see that being studied in the future. But regardless, I think it's important to teach kids about their dreams and just like normalize that for them, which, is so important.
And I mean, especially growing up without all the, phones and whatever kids have now, dreams stood out a lot more. I bet. I don't know if kids today would just care less about dreams than before.
So when did you start lucid dreaming, Red, and like how frequent was it?
For me, well, when I was a little kid, it was like pretty much every dream was lucid. Like for me, it was pretty much the opposite of everyone. More like, someone that doesn't know about lucidity might get like 1 or 2 lucids a year. For me, it was pretty much the opposite of like 1 or 2 non-lucids a year, but when I was really little. And so yeah, so for me, lucidity was just the most common thing. And for me, it would be surprising if I woke up and was like, wait a minute, that wasn't real. Like for me, that was the surprise. But yeah, like for me, learning control, like I've said before at 5, but yeah, I feel like 4 or 5, like whatever the age I learned, just because of my dad saying about, and also my sister just saying about flying in dreams, and also that I could do anything in dreams. So first I tried flying, then another dream I eventually just tried something else. But yeah, it was that early for me.
A point of information directed at Red real quick. I just wanted to ask you a question. Do you think anything related to how you were raised as a kid may have contributed to this, like values that your family was teaching you, or things that they would tell you, or the way they would instruct you on things, or how you were raised? You seem to talk about like your siblings talking about flying in dreams and people telling you could do anything in dreams and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do you think that it affected you in any way?
I mean, hearing about that got me to try out dream control, and I honestly think like if I never got to trying dream control, I wouldn't be surprised if like over the years I would eventually stop being lucid as frequent. Like I wouldn't be surprised if that would have happened, but of trying out dream control, then I was more remembering my dreams, caring about them, instead of just, eventually forgetting them as, I went on in school and, had other stuff to actually care about. So I do feel like if it wasn't for that, I'd have easily lost my ability to get lucid. Or at least as frequent.
I think one of the big things that got me frequent when I was a kid was like experiencing the dreams again during the day. And then like especially my pre-sleep, the way I would get into dreams. So I think I got into it a little different than pretty much anybody I've heard about. Although Red, I think I may have heard this story before and I just forgot it because I don't think maybe you and I don't recall anybody else who like had frequent lucid dreams when they were a kid. Maybe Amina did as well. I think that's like extremely rare. And for me, it was based on like nightmares and night terrors and forcing myself to stay awake and having a lot of sleep paralysis and kind of transitioning from sleep paralysis into lucid sleep and lucid dreams. So I definitely came at it from a different angle. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that feels more out of necessity than just, trying out something fun.
Yeah, it was necessity. It just kind of happened. So,
yeah, different angles, but I guess it just happened for both of us.
yeah. I mean, I wasn't really told anything about dreams. I was raised a Christian, so I knew stories, but dreams were something that you were given from God, and anything else was to be ignored. And so for a long time in Christian circles, that was the kind of the basic teaching was if you get some dreams God will give you, but most of the dreams it's going to be bad and you should ignore it. And the devil will also try to get you through your dreams. So that's what my mother taught me was that my nightmares and night terrors were attacks from the devil. So I was lucid dreaming helped me overcome that, and control was like, it's a funny thing because control was not at all. It's not even the point. It's like when I finally realized how to control things, I wasn't controlling something. I was letting go and being more connected with the nature of the dream and how the dream worked. And then in that way I could influence the dream rather than like a lot of when people talk about control, I want this particular thing to happen and I'm going to overwhelm it with my willpower. And so I learned control a lot differently and then relearned it later on.
So how does control work with letting go?
Because the dream is in control. Like you're not in control, the dream is in control.
Yeah.
And it always is, always has been. And so for me to try to change the dream, I'm not changing, like it's kind of that concept of and I think Skyfall referenced it a little bit in the Matrix. He didn't reference the Matrix, but you're changing yourself is what he said. So, and in the Matrix, it's like you have to come to the realization that it's not the spoon changing, it's you. And so that in becoming more kind of like open to the dream, letting go, that helped me understand how the dream worked more. And then that kind of opened up more of the dream control. It's a long story. Like I was getting stuck in lucid nightmares and I couldn't even wake up. And I was just like getting tortured every night. So eventually I just wanted to die, like literally die. And so I had like this letting go experience. And then when that happened, it just totally changed everything for me. So yeah, and that was just kind of like a stripping away of all of my preconceptions and ideas about the dream and what I was expecting, especially what I expected to happen.
Yeah.
Honestly, The Matrix is such a good allegory for dream control. I love that the fall scene where he's teaching him to try to jump, and it is just you're your confidence, your belief, your association, your expectation that you will succeed doing it. And like Neo's whole transformation into the One is literally him believing that he can. It's beautiful because it's such a good allegory for just how dream control works that honestly, I think it's the best fictional representation of dream control in existence that I know of. So yeah, I really love that. At the end of the day, self-control is ultimately, it's not, you're changing the dream by changing yourself. You change, basically you're just changing how you react and respond to things. Even small ways can have some really profound impacts. Just thinking about how you respond in a situation can really change something from being a stressful nightmare situation to something completely different. So that's a really amazing thing with dream control.
Like, I do find that funny, like how good the Matrix is. Because yeah, when I was told about being able to do anything in dreams, that was like the example that my dad gave. And well, he told me about the movie, I was too little to watch it, but yeah, that was the example I got.
What's funny? My mom never told me this, but my cousin would have nightmares, and she told my cousin, "Well, before you go to sleep, just imagine a field of flowers, a beautiful meadow of flowers, and then you'll be okay." And the kid believed it, and they did that, and it worked. Just poof, it worked.
I guess that falls into kids like very easily learning stuff.
Yeah, like if you have an authority figure that's telling you something, I think this is why some of the studies have such high success rates, because they're in a lab and they're being told by an authority. There's a lot of placebo going on there. But if you can figure out how to placebo yourself, that's it's like an unlock code.
Guys, before we all continue real quick, I just wanted to let y'all know that my time with you has come to an end, and so I'm going to bow out. Thank you, guys. I've enjoyed the little discussions that we've had so far, and I hope you all have a good evening.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Thanks for
coming.
stopping by.
Have a good evening.
Bye, Skyfall.
Yeah, so I think authority figure stuff is pretty interesting too. I mean, it kind of like, I did actually share a personal experience related to this. When I was, it sort of relates to, I think some of us here can relate to this who have just generally been in the Discord community. When some new person joins the community with, let's just say that they start from a blank sheet. Let's not even say that they've been fed misinformation, which usually is the case. You can then be like, okay, this is going to work in your dreams, and this is how this works, and this technique works, and that technique works. And that might be part of why they get success, because they don't even question it at that stage. And then when things like slow down, if they slow down, or when they see other people not getting results, which is another like kind of almost problem that I have with some of these communities, where you hear way more bad than you hear good. Like, people don't usually go into a Discord server and be like, I just like had an amazing experience. I tried this for control and it worked. You usually hear, I tried to control and it didn't work. And this has an effect on people as well. But to get back on topic, to get back to that topic, it's like when someone who is like knowledgeable is telling you something, it tends to go in. And an example is when I just joined the community, or a bit after maybe, I had trouble with like I was fed like reality check this, that, put your finger through your palm. And it wasn't really working for me because I wasn't being critical enough, or maybe I was a bit, but like not enough. So someone told me, they gave me the analogy of just like, be a detective or something, that kind of idea behind criticality. And I guess I sort of saw it as a authority sort of voice speaking to me, almost like in a good sense, I guess, probably because they were like a moderator on Dream Cafe or something, I don't know. But it worked, and like then later on, when you start having doubts and you start questioning things and you start seeing things differently from experience, that's when things sometimes go downhill. I think that's my understanding. And that's sometimes why people quit too. But
Yep.
yeah, because right now I don't really like unless LeBert joined and told me to do something, I feel like I don't really see people as an authority figure anymore within the community at all. In the sense that, like, sure, if someone else tells me to do something, that's going to be different than me telling myself, or at least just sort of like on the surface level. But like, I don't really look up to people in the same way anymore, just because I actually know people. So, right? So anyway, that's just sort of a thought that I had. But yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I have a lot on that. So I was talking to somebody recently who went to a dream coach and had a lot of success with it. And I think it wasn't just the fact that this person was an authority figure, but it was the fact that the person who went to the dream coach and was doing the things, they were doing these things that the person recommended along the time schedule that they recommended. They were adopting this person's practice structure that the person had devised for their students, right? And I think that saying, okay, this is what I'm going to do towards this end, and these are the results that I'm expecting. Having an actual structure and a practice structure with a schedule and expected results, that makes a massive difference. Some of the most successful lucid dreamers I know are people who, put something into practice and did it consistently. Now, without a teacher, that's a little bit open-ended, and a lot of people can't handle that, where it's like an open-ended thing, and you never know when it's going to work. So a lot of people, their motivation will just evaporate under that pressure. So when you have like a set, okay, it's a class, it's going to last this long, and I'm going to do this, and I'm expecting this result. Even if you don't get everything that you want, it's still, you see how it's like it's building up this focus. Everything is focused in, and there's just a lot more. I think it's a lot more effective. So how would you do that if you didn't have a dream coach? Well, you just don't really, because you would have to know how to create your own. Like you'd have to use a book, right? You'd have to use little known fact. Stephen LeBerge created a lucid dreaming course that's out there on the internet. You Google it. Like you'd have to use a lucid dreaming course created by an authority in the space, or created by somebody who's charging you a bunch of money for something that's less than great. But that happens as well. But I think that's also a big part of it. And the flip side of the coin is I've seen people come in with natural talent and see people in the community as authority figures and have their natural talent totally undermined. I remember that a couple times in the Dream Views chat, I remember these people coming in that were getting lucid at the beginning of the night. They were going to sleep and being lucid right at the start. And as soon as they were given techniques and told that that was not a thing that was possible, they didn't do it anymore. They couldn't do it anymore. So that's something I emphasize being open and to possibility and trying new things because of stuff I've seen like that, where people literally just get their whole schemas, positive schemas, obliterated in a second because they trusted somebody. So that's the dark side, I guess. But that's why I recommend LeBerge's book a lot. He's got good processes in there. It's kind of disjointed and disorganized, and he doesn't really emphasize anything or say there's no real course, right? He has a lucid dreaming course online. I think you have to find it. it's not actually like for sale or anything. I think you have to just archive.org or something like that. And it uses his mask, but you can do it without the mask. But anyway, point being, like, yeah, what do you do? How do you have that kind of confidence without the placebo of having an authority figure? How do you even do that?
That's like all really good thoughts that I definitely have been thinking about myself as well. So to go back to what we were both mentioning about kind of like the community ruining things for people, as I say, the amount of negativity generally seems to have a bad effect, and I think that's a very bad thing. As for sort of having a specific course, I do find that simply saying, do what technique works best for you. In fact, don't even do what technique works best for you. Change a technique, make your own technique, personalize it. These are all positive messages for later. But for now, what people tend to enjoy, well, early on, or some people at least, is a very set, straight pathway, like a journey, like a lucid journey, like what the term lucid journey originally meant to me before it became that 5-part course on Dream Cafe, which was cool, but it didn't hold the original principle of what I was thinking of. Because what I was thinking of is like quite literally just be like, here's the path that you need to take. This is what you need to do. And just, you have that authority figure, you have that sort of like very specific path, which can, have this end result idea that you were presenting about, like, like I do this and this is the result. I think that's like a very positive. And then like customizing it afterwards can be useful. And I feel like the sort of drawback of like questioning things is inevitable to some extent, I guess. You just have to sort of try and implant a good mindset early on, which also connects to other things that I've been thinking about, what's a good mindset to have. And again, I don't feel like there should be like a blanket mindset that we say you have to look at your dreams this specific way. But how you look at your dreams has a massive effect on how, just your, let's use this word, your dream work, or, just sort of like lucidity and incubation and, the content of your dreams in the first place, etc. And so I feel like it's kind of like a balancing scale of how you want to present things, because you want to sort of leave options open for people, but you also want to close off options at the same time, like not in a bad way, but like in a way where you're directing people in like down the right path. So that's sort of how I see things, like, and what I've been thinking about and sort of application of it. But I feel like right now in the community, at least the Discord community, or the majority of it, it ends up being sort of like, you need to do this or this or this, but you can do whatever you want and try it and do this and do that if you want to. You don't have to. And then you immediately create this sort of feeling of questioning, the feeling of being lost, and also sometimes take away the positive effects of like an authority figure. And just to add on really fast, I think there was I got involved with, I got into the server of this sort of like offshoot of a relatively large reality shifting Discord server, where they were doing like a month-long course where they directed you very specifically exactly what to do to reality shift. And it was like, step by step, 1 month long, I don't know exactly what they were offering, but I was getting pinged every day for a month. I wasn't doing it, and I need to look through it, because like I know it wasn't like that specific month. It was like sort of just the idea of 1 month whenever, which is cool. Kind of reminds me of LDX. But I think there's sort of like something to that, this idea of a specific course. And I know lucid dreaming courses have been done before. Unfortunately, I think there's a lot of bad associations with them, as you mentioned, of like people just saying, "Pay me $500 and I'll teach you to lucid dream." Trust me, there are websites with that on it. But yeah, that's the thoughts which come to mind for me. That was a lot.
Yeah, I've talked with some people like almost like maybe we should just start with incubation by itself instead of having people start with lucid dreaming techniques, because like when you get into lucid dreaming, there's all these prerequisite skills, and a lot of times they're just going straight for lucidity without having the ability to visualize, without having the ability to set their intentions, have confidence in their abilities, have any kind of perspective memory ability. So, I mean, like, honestly, for any new beginner, starting with incubation is probably a good idea. Like a dream journal, incubation, and reality checks, rather than trying to go straight for lucidity. And I think a lot of people who do end up getting lucidity end up getting short, low quality lucids for a while. And they're going, but I mean, they want to control their dreams. They want to have the dreams that they want to have, right? And it's like, yeah, but your goal for lucidity is actually might be getting in the way of having the dreams that you want to have. You might be better off just incubating. If your goal is to control your dreams, I want to have this particular kind of dream, then you might just be better off doing incubation.
I really like what you're getting at here, because sort of the idea of putting way less focus on lucidity in general is something which I've sort of been playing around with, and other people in LDD have too. So sort of first it was just the idea of like, let's put focus on dreams instead of focus on lucidity, because focus on lucidity immediately tends to give people a bad mindset of not sort of enjoying their dreams, because lucidity is essentially like, lucid dreaming work is a work of dreams essentially, and if you're not happy with your dreams, then you probably won't go far. Sorry, you probably won't go far with dream work, because like, you're going to be upset every time that you don't get a lucid dream, as in you won't be good with lucid dream work. But so that's an idea that I was thinking about, how do we entirely shift the perspective and mindset of like people we're reaching out to. So that's something which has been floating around mostly within like, well, most recently what I'm involved in with LDD stuff, like within the group of people we have on this stuff. And then so someone presented the idea of like, let's not even I really like this idea, like we need to explore it more, just putting it out there, like let's not even make it like a thing about dreams inherently, like to show it to people, but like let's make it about sleep, because people are thinking more about sleep than dreams. And then if we make dreams about sleep, and then we can add lucid dreaming like almost optionally, I think that's kind of a cool way to look at it, because I feel like, again, moving back to what I was saying about mindset and the importance of mindset, I think mindset is way looked over. Like if you feel like you're fighting your dreams, or like your dreams are fighting you, you're not going to go very far. So your first step needs to always be to learn to love your dreams. So how do we start presenting this idea to people instead of what I see like constantly in the Discord community, which is just like, I need to lucid dream. How do I lucid dream? I want to control my dreams. I want to do this and this and this. I want to lucid dream to fly. I want to lucid dream to fight a dragon. I want to fly on a dragon. It goes on. But like, why are we thinking about these things when we can also learn to appreciate the dreams that we do have, and then we'll maybe have a better time at also getting to these goals as well. And this kind of ties in slightly as well to what we were saying earlier about not trying too hard and stuff to do with goals as well. Because, like, if you're sort of trying hard for a specific goal, you'll probably be leaving behind other parts of your practice and just sort of appreciating the dreams that you do have. So anyway, that kind of went on, but yeah.
I have thoughts, but don't want to get in the way.
No, does anyone else have thoughts that they want to do first?
I guess, yeah, you went into a lot.
Yeah, sorry, we kind of left everyone else.
I guess one thing that, yeah, like you said, of taking the focus off, like lucidity specifically, like I have looked for servers that are only about dreaming, not about lucidity, and I don't think there are any, unless there's some that are spiritual, because I just don't go into those servers anyways. But I don't think. Oh, I haven't looked there, but yeah, like how yeah, like I haven't found any Discord servers that were like dreaming and not lucid, like about lucidity. And yeah, it does seem like it would be good. Like I guess I'm maybe making it like 3 steps of like one focus on dream and recall, one focus on incubation, another on lucidity, and maybe even separating that into dream control. But yeah, we go like to appreciate that type of stuff, and maybe adding more steps will make it easier to get into lucid dreaming instead of like maybe lucid dreaming just takes that much skill. So learning a skill that would help you on the way would help you get lucidity faster, more easily.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is like people will see. Well, first of all, totally new beginners. I remember having this issue just constantly. Maybe it still happens. But you have like these viral posts on Reddit. They're like, you can get lucid this afternoon. And then if there'd be an influx of people coming into the forum or the chat room or whatever, expecting instant results.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that mindset also kind of is baked into kind of our societal assumptions about dreams, that dreams are not real, it's all in your head. And then this idea that you can control them comes along, and it just seems so simple. But a lot of that, I think, just comes from people that have so little experience with their dreams, so little history, that they just don't, there's no understanding, there's no reference point whatsoever. So then you want, okay, well, let's adjust the expectations. And for me, it's like, all right, well, what kind of lucid dream are you looking for? What are you looking for long term? If you just want to get lucid, then you don't need to worry about a dream journal or reality checks, any of that mess. On a weekend, wake up early, after you've been sleeping for 4 hours, stay up for a while, and then do mild before you go back to sleep. That's like, and just do that once a week. If you really want to have lucid dreams all the time, that's a totally different story. Like if you want to be consistent, then you need to have good recall. You need to do daytime exercises or pre-sleep exercises. You need all this support structure for a regular lucid dreaming practice. So I think if I was to create a course, I would probably, my ideas is like figuring out what's best for people, but beyond that, like a fast course and a slow course. I think a lot of people don't even know if they would enjoy lucid dreams. They just think it'd be cool to go in this other world where they can control everything and do anything they want. And for some people that works, but for 9 times out of 10, it's going to take somebody at least a year of constant practice to get to the point where they can have that level of control and so on.
Oh, yeah. I just like to quickly speak on what you were saying. I feel like, first of all, it's pretty interesting what you say about people not actually aiming for the, like, I feel like if you asked like 9 out of 10 people that you asked on a server, like, I hate to keep on bringing up Discord, but like, what else am I going to bring up? 9 out of 10 people that you asked on a server like Doom Cafe, they'd be like, you know what? I just joined this server, but I want to be Lucid. And it's just kind of, so it's like, it's kind of, well, they're just setting themselves up for a sort of failure. I feel like we need to stop just having people shoot for the stars in just every imaginable way and seriously think to themselves, you know what? Maybe I can have a lucid dream here and there, but again, putting that focus on the actual dream aspect of lucid dreaming will improve this greatly, because like, who cares if after a year of straight practice you're able to control your dreams like seamlessly, or not even that, maybe, totally depends, but like, just enjoy your dreams as they are. But like, as well, this ties into, I can't get over like how amazing this comparison is, because it kind of just changes my perspective entirely. Like, what if lucid dreaming is just kind of like seen by society suddenly as something similar to yoga, because people do yoga and they know that you're not going to get immediate results from yoga. It's an exercise. It does things for the mind, I suppose. It does things for the body. I don't really know much about yoga, okay? But, that's my understanding of it. And lucid dreaming, or, sort of dream work, I suppose, can be the same, that you don't expect immediate results. And that's fine. No one should set themselves up for failure that way, and then you'll completely change people's perspective on it. And in current society, there are people who do things like yoga, and it doesn't have to be spiritual. I think yoga as well has both scientific and spiritual relations, which I find interesting, because it sort of even more like deepens or strengthens or adds to the connection between dreams and yoga, almost, in the sense that there are people who, think that they're ascending or something when they do yoga, and there are people who think that they're astral projecting when they have dreams. But there's also the actual scientific side. I'm sure there's a scientific side to yoga, of course there is. And so it's like sort of finding a cool dynamic there, where people do it and they know what they're doing and they know what they're not doing. But I recognize that we're also like so incredibly far from this. But like, one question that's been brought up a lot in the LGD sort of server of people talking about random stuff and projects, which is amazing. But like, it's been talked a lot about, how do we present it to people in a way where we immediately sort of try to pave a way for this sort of mindset, rather than putting incredible emphasis on something like lucidity. And then, it sort of brings you around to the question of like, what is the inherent value of lucidity? I mean, sure, there are good things about it. You can aim for, I want to get lucid once a week, maybe, or I want to just be able to be lucid when I try. Like, I want to know what I need to do to get lucid, or something like that. But, making omnilucidity, as I said, an end goal isn't very, isn't very respectful of yourself. But, as well, society right now ties into the fact that society right now is very different than other societies, or in the past, or even ones which still exist now, but like not in broader society. They're like marginalized. Society right now doesn't really care about dreams or spirituality or long-term practices. I mean, it sort of allows for yoga, but like that, in the past, or even in the present, with societies which put a lot of emphasis on dreams and dream circles and talking about dreams and interpreting dreams and all of that, like especially in indigenous communities. I know, in many countries. So there's that too to consider. Sorry, I sort of made a mental list of things to respond to, and then I forgot it, and then I remembered it. So okay.
So I think there's something really important here. Yoga, it's a really great example. So with yoga, everybody has laid on the floor. Everybody has, especially as children, you're playing around with your body to see what happens, just to have fun or whatever. But think about that in the same terms with dreams. There's no basis, there's no foundational skills. Like, how many people are actually remembering their dreams or thinking about their dreams or reflecting on their dreams or thinking about something and expecting a dream about it? Like, anything dream related whatsoever, it's not there at all. So again, with the Matrix, when they take him out of the pod and he wakes up with all the pins in him because they're it's like acupuncture, they're trying to stimulate muscle growth. He's like, my eyes are tired. And he's like, you've never used them before, right? So a lot of these people coming into the lucid dreaming community are expecting to be able to walk or run when they can't even move their legs. They've never even tried before. So that, I think people just don't understand how behind or how little ability they have. And it's all just all in your head. That dreams are just all in your head. It's whatever. It's just I can control all my thoughts. Why can't I control my dreams? Well, you can't control your thoughts, but there's an assumption that you can, right? So there's these built-in assumptions about it that makes us believe that we have more ability than we do, or that we should be able to do this thing, even though we've never even used that muscle ever. So if people understood that, you're coming into this never having used that muscle ever. Like, oh yeah, I've had dreams before. Like, okay, well, maybe some people have a little bit more use of the muscle than others, but most people are coming into it with nothing. And if I think if people understood that, maybe they would still try. Maybe that would turn people away. I don't know, but it's such a huge job of resetting expectations.
Yeah, this is what I mean by I see, right now with all of the conversations that are happening and as well, just sort of almost internally my mindset around not well, kind of dreams, but also kind of just the dreaming community, because I've been in it for a year and a half now, and which is quite a short time, but for a year and 3 months, I learned way less than I have in the last 3 months, because I'm going through this series of realizations and understandings inside of myself where it's just okay, so everyone in the community, why are so many people in the community sort of giving up and failing? And then when you sort of boil it down, it is this sort of issue of mindset. It's mindset. This is a word which I like to use, which originally was sort of brought up to me about auto-suggestion related stuff. That's kind of the first time that I sort of came across that word. And then I sort of I find the community weird, because it's whenever I find something or I start thinking about something, it seems to sort of start popping up way way more often than it did before. Maybe I'm just noticing it, or maybe it's there's sort of a massive weird ripple effect, because almost everyone in the community is sheep. But if I started thinking about things in the perspective of mindset, and then in the second Lucid journey, we sort of had a segment about mindset, and we didn't really cover hardly anything at all, but it was something like, how does mindset even work in the space of like dreams, in the context of dreams? And it just kind of it started off being, if I have a positive mindset about getting lucid dreams, so this was an interesting one to me. I don't know if I'm going too off topic or whatever, but this was an interesting one to me. Like, if you have a mindset about getting a lucid dream, that every lucid dream is a good achievement and you should be proud of it, even if you didn't do like certain dream goals. If you try and get that mindset into your head and really solidify it, and then it will have a massive positive effect on you as a lucid dreamer. As well, like the sort of mantra idea of like, as a lucid dreamer, lucid dreaming is just something that I do, which I think is like, it's a bit silly, but it's good. And it was sort of these ideas of like, mindset improvement for lucid dreaming, so that you don't burn out super fast if you're not doing that one dream goal, or if you're not, getting lucid dreams or this or that. So, that's where it sort of started. But then I sort of amplified it in my head, or maybe, well, it was just kind of me, the idea of, it expands to the idea of, what we need to be looking at dreams in a different way, because lucid dreaming is inherently a dream practice. And then I realized that basically the entire community is completely with full emphasis on the lucid dreaming and with very little emphasis on dreams. And then I start to realize all of these little things like, hey, you put your lucid dream count in your name in Discord in most servers. Why don't we put our dream recall count in our name instead? Because then we're putting emphasis on that. Just as an example of, just how much emphasis there is on like literally just like a number to some extent. I know when like a year and a half ago, I actually sort of put emphasis on the number as well. Like, it kind of gave me motivation to get the next lucid count roll on Dream Cafe. Okay, so I just find all of this quite silly. It's like, okay, now we really have to wind back and reset almost entirely. First of all, people are getting these like, we didn't really go into this today so far, but they're being fed misinformation from YouTube channels like, lucid dream tonight, this and this and this. It's all about lucid dreaming, not about dreams, really. And then, how do we reset things so that we don't have this sort of like people coming in with this immediate, how do I lucid dream? The amount of people who send that as their first message in a Discord server is just sad. Like, I feel bad for them. And so how do we make it so that when people find out about this, they don't immediately think about dreams? And then it kind of brings you to the question of what is like the best, not really the best, but like what is a good mindset to have for dreams? And then I started asking around and asking people in DMs. I've asked some people and not others. I haven't really made it an official thing. How do you see your dreams? Like, to describe it in a sentence, describe it in a few words, describe it this and that. And then I'll apply my knowledge of this person, because I do tend to ask people who I know personally. They describe it in a way, and their dreams 100% reflect the way that they describe it. And these people aren't describing it the same way. It's like someone who describes their dreams as like beautiful and artistic. Their dreams can be beautiful and artistic. And then, it's like these links that if you could change the words with which you're describing your dreams, this could have a massive effect on your dream content as well. So to sort of wind it back a bit, how do you bring people into the community without creating these sort of bad mindsets that immediately set people back? Imagine someone describes their dreams with the words, a place where I can get lucid. You're going to end up with just you're gonna end up in a hole and never climb back out until you change that. So anyway, I think I rambled a lot there. I'm sorry. Who would like to speak next?
Yeah, how many Lucids do you have? No, I'm kidding.
I don't remember. It's
accept-
like 57.
I will only accept your opinion if you have more than 500 lucid dreams.
Well, you and Red can have an amazing conversation together.
But I mean, yeah, that was a lot about the server too. But let's see, I just remembered how I wanted to mention about really early on of incubation, the topic, of
What?
yeah, like man, where is it? Oh yeah, of yeah, how it was really early on that people mentioned that with incubating stuff and goals and all that, how to get shorter lucids. Yeah, what I wanted to say about that was hey, like I feel like there's two possibilities for that, like a reason for that. And yeah, like one of them is just that if you're like incubating or hoping for like a moment, well then the dream you're gonna get that is a success is only gonna be that moment. You just want to do one action, that's all you get. But also what I'm thinking, and like you can correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not sure, but like how the experience is if you've done it. But maybe it seems short just because that's the moment that's important to you, so that's all you recall. So maybe you still had a long dream like everything else, but maybe later in the dream you start to get lucid, and later than that you remember the goal, and that just becomes all you remember. So it seems like all your lucids are short when you have goals like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I think about them being short.
Yeah, I experimented with counting in a lucid. I think it was at some point last year. And like in the studies, they say that people count pretty much the same as waking life. But when I tried it, I counted way slower. So like when I woke up, I realized, oh, I was counting way slower. To where like every second was maybe like 3 to 5 seconds. And so my lucid was actually a lot longer than I thought it was. So there's that
How do you
too.
test that? Like go wake back to bed or something?
Sorry, what?
Like how were you able to test that out?
Oh, I in a lucid, I just had the idea to do that. I did that, and then I woke up.
But I mean, like, how do you know when you started counting? Did you like do that in wild or something?
Oh, I see what you mean. I don't remember. I don't
Because
think I
yeah.
did a wild. Yeah, and I don't know how long the dream was overall. I think it was a few minutes, but I could just tell like the time that the part of the dream where I was counting. I was definitely counting really slow.
All right. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, like I don't know if you got anything to say about what I was thinking of. Like maybe the part you remember the most is just a part of the dream, and some people might misunderstand that as the only dream when they could have had a couple of minutes, even an hour or whatever of dream before that, but they only recall the part where the goal's done, so they think the dream was only that short.
Yeah, so I think that's definitely a possibility. And then also, if your perception of time is warped, then it could be that certain, like, if I'm going to go to the goal, that seems like if I'm going straight to the goal, so in my lucid, that's all I'm focused on. So I'm not even like things would probably seem like they're going faster. If that
Yeah,
makes
I guess.
sense.
Also, like
It's
real
like,
life, how you forget all the boring parts
yeah,
very easily.
yeah. Or like the boring part might have been a 30-second span, but because it was boring and you weren't focusing on it, it felt more like 5 seconds, something like that.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking like maybe something like that's causing the incubation goal dreams to seem shorter.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not as short, but the goal part was short.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the end. The other idea was just that, yeah, you're incubating a short moment, so that's all you get.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. It's so tough to incubate a long dream.
Yeah, I guess like if you choose to incubate like just a place, so you still get a regular length dream that happens to be there, or like I guess or whole plot. You got to go through the plot. You can't get that done in a moment.
Yeah, like for me, what works for me best is not scripting it to a T, like
Yeah.
to where there's space for the dream to breathe and do its own thing. And then there's always kind of this question of like, what's next? When I'm lucid in the dream, and it's like, well, okay, that just happened. What's next? That just happened. What's next?
I mean, I guess in my case, I don't like scripted stuff, and that's just I don't like it.
Yeah.
But because like that what next type thing. Like I don't want to be the one planning out my dream. I want to be the one experiencing it.
Yeah.
And if it's a super scripted story, you're not really experiencing it. You're just waiting for the next part of the story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what I mean by like what's next is like instead of doing the goal and then I'm done, it's like I'm expecting more. I don't know what it's going to be, but I know there's something more implicitly. It's not even something I'm thinking about. I just know.
So that's a good thing.
Yeah, so it's going to extend the dream because, yeah, I just know that there's more to dream. Like there's more to happen.
So just through that, you get the dream to last longer.
Yeah, and I think that's what was so cool about just saying like I'm gonna have an epic dream, because I just put everything into like the dream's gonna make itself, and that's what's gonna happen. And that wasn't a super long lucid for me, but boy, it was amazing. It was so good.
Yeah, sounds great. Like that sounds like a way better use of incubation.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, yeah. So for me, that I got to that after trying super scripted, detailed incubation for years, and it just never really worked for me. I've had some great results from incubating stuff. It seems like the more specific it is, the more my mind has the opportunity to question it and be like, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? Because a lot of times when I'm in lucids, I'll have the dream like create obstacles for me, but like between me and my goal. And I got to the point where I just knew it was going to happen, and so of course that's another layer of expectation that you have to overcome. So it's like, I have this goal. Oh, there's a giant that just appeared and he's trying to kill me. It's like that would happen all like constantly, and that's tied to a larger mindset of self-doubt, or maybe not self-doubt, but expecting the worst.
Yeah. Because some people like accidentally cause their own nightmares.
Yeah, no, I still struggle with that, like just causing nightmares through, like I think it was a couple months ago, I felt like I finally had the best breakthrough I've ever had with spiders. So in dreams, spiders historically for me have been a nightmare inducing thing, where like if a spider appears, or I'd run into spider webs. I'd like walk into spider and then I'd get stuck in the web, and then here comes the spider gonna eat me. And through a really long process, I was able to get through that, but I had to do it in my dreams. I couldn't, for whatever reason, I couldn't do it with waking life. Like I had to slowly change my dreams, like one lucid after the other, to the point where. So then, like a couple months ago, I was in the crawl space of a house, and I knew spiders were going to be down there. I could see webs, but I also could feel the anxiety that I was producing.
Yeah.
And I was able to kind of logic my way out of it. Like spiders are probably not going to attack me. Why would spiders attack me? So I'm going through this in my head in the dream. I'm in a dream. Why would they attack me? I know what's gonna like so walking myself through that and then being able to change the emotion in real time. And one of the biggest things that would happen to me in those dreams is I would turn my head to look somewhere and there's the nightmare material. Like it's like in the movies where like they're about to open the door or they're about to go around the corner or
Yeah.
something's about to be revealed. And I was able to change that time with that positive mindset, really. And it took me a long time to be able to do that, though. I mean, that was many dreams of work, many lucids, working with spiders, laying down, letting them crawl over me, letting them bite me. You know,
I mean, yeah, like how all that, like how you said, it's all in dreams. So like it really sounds like getting incubation from a dream instead of like what I thought before of just incubation from real life, choosing what the dream will be.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like I'm changing the dream right now with dream control, but then that dream is going to act on my future expectations, right? Because I was
Yeah.
able to change this dream, this spider dream, I was able to lay down and take it and take the bites, take the fear. Next dream, I'm not going to have as much fear. I'm not going to
Yeah.
have as much
So
anxiety, or I'll
it's
have a better
working as
time.
incubation.
In a way, yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, like how that shows that it's pretty like you pretty much done it. So yeah, incubating through dreams. So it's like how
Yeah, I didn't think of it that way.
it does. Like just hearing incubating in dreams, it just sounds like as dream control, but hearing it that way, especially like you saying of turning around expecting something bad, or being in a crawl space expecting something bad. Now you're able to change that. How that changed the event that happened later instead of you just doing dream control of now there's no bad guy. It was just affecting how it would develop.
Yep. Yeah, because when I fight with things, they get worse. They get stronger. And the same thing happened when I was a kid. Like I would fight and fight. Things would get stronger. And this is happening over several, dream after dream after dream, until things got so out of hand that I was like suicidal in my dream. I wanted to die, and that's when I had my breakthrough. But like as an adult, I'm having these little breakthroughs. Like I'm more aware of things. I know the process. I understand. So yeah, it's like just tiny little breakthroughs, building on that for the next dream. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much. It's very close to waking incubation because you're doing that daily. You're building on it. A lot of times, like you might not get it the first time, but maybe after a week of doing it, you'll get more aspects of what you want, and you're building on that. And you're building on that. Yeah, for whatever reason, I have a hard time doing waking incubation, but like I can in dreams, I'll like work on my schemas. I'll work on my dream signs.
So was that how you like? Because yeah, you said you were like doing incubation a bunch with other stuff. So was that also in dreams?
No, that was waking.
All right.
But I always had it was basically impossible for me to change something specific. It's like there was like this autopilot self-doubt undermining thing that would if I was trying to do anything specific. So I have to do anything specific. And then if I wanted, like when I did do something sort of kind of specific, it wasn't really that specific. So it was sort of, it's like, okay, I want an answer to this, but I don't really care how I get it. That took me like a month to make that happen. But recently I've been able to like say, okay, I want this kind of dream, and it happens. But that's only because I've worked on my mindset for years. Adjusting it to not eliminate self-doubt or get out, but yeah, self-doubt's a thing, but I know what I can do. And if self-doubt's there, that's fine. That's okay. And just being okay with that, it's like it kind of takes away its power, I think.
Yeah, like you learn how to handle it.
Yeah.
And yeah, like if you think of oh yeah, it took you several dreams and you were working it out. Like it does remind me of how I barely think of it as incubation, but I guess it really is. Is of oh yeah, with me like over the years, mostly just before like getting in the community, was that I would work on improving the details in my dreams. Trying to get it more realistic, realizing what's real about real life and what makes dreams not like real life. So just catching all that little stuff. Like I remember one of the big moments was noticing that I'd have like every room and everything lit up in dreams, and I'd never have a lamp in any room. So I was like, oh well, I need light sources. So after that, a bunch of dreams got real dark. Just I still had no light sources, and again, just adding them in and getting them to actually light up the place instead of just a little area around the lights and all that type of stuff. But yeah, like incubating that stuff. But yeah, for me, like all those type of details that I worked on, they just seem like a thought of that needs to change in a dream. That was all I did about it. But I would still like with coming up with ideas and just with them actually happening, that did take a bunch of time.
Yeah. My dream just constantly fights me, it seems like. And I do work on my mindset a lot. That's, a big reason why I'm into spiritual stuff, because it's a way of working with mindset and adjusting it. But like, one time I was really vivid, wild, went into my bathroom. I forget what my goal was. I had some kind of goal in mind, but there was a woman in the shower, and I was like, oh, it's a distraction, of course. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to get rid of this distraction real quick. Not realizing that getting rid of the distraction was also a distraction. And I was like, okay, I'm going to make him disappear. But when I had this intention of in the dream, I felt like, almost called it like death intent. Like it had this thought in my head, like death intent, and to try to make him go away. So I like did this snap. And a lot of times in dreams, I'll just be able to snap things away. Like that's why I barely ever fight in dreams until recently, because I want to have fun.
Yeah.
Before it was just like I want to just do these particular things, and so fighting is stupid. Would just snap, and they would like vaporize them or something like that.
Oh, yeah, that's what I did before.
And then like in this dream, the dream's like messing with me, and the dream character like slowly disintegrates and like rots in front of me, and then like flies come out of their mouth. It's really gross. And I wasn't freaking out in the dream or anything. I was just like really frustrated that it didn't work the way I wanted it to. It's like, oh, dang it, this is so annoying. So I tried to walk, but I lost the dream. But yeah, it's like I've got a really deep expectation that things are going to go wrong, and the worst thing that could happen is going to happen. So it's something that this is part of who I am as well. It's something that I work on pretty regularly. But the best thing for me is honestly just to confront it directly in the dream.
Like confronting of thinking stuff is going wrong.
Yeah, like in the moment, shit's hitting the fan, my emotions are going out of whack, and dealing with it in that moment, just relaxing, knowing like this is a dream. I know it can harm me. Like I'm not kidding myself about that. Like dreams can hurt. Dreams can hurt bad. So I'm not going to fool myself about that, but it's like I'm going to calm myself. Knowing the possibilities, I'm still going to calm myself and focus on my mindset, because I know that everything around me is a result of that.
That's cool. Do we have anything to add on this topic, or should we bring it back around?
Any more into incubation, or is there some question?
No, I think just to incubation, like final thoughts on incubation, just trying to to summarize what you're taking from this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Go
I
on.
think we've been talking about incubation the whole time, just different angles of approach. And
Yeah.
I would say like if you're trying to get a particular dream and you're working with incubation, even like with lucidity, I really think, and a lot of times the advice that I give people, like, okay, I was a natural, I learned really young, and so a lot of people discount advice because, oh well, you're natural, you have a different, you're not like us plebs that have to work for our lucids. Um, but I just say like the feeling of the dream. I think that's so important. Like when you're awake, to try to be present in a dream when you're awake. And the easiest way to do that is to go into a dream that you already had, and recall that in detail, in as much detail as you can, and just enjoy the memory of it and feel that, be there in that moment, in that memory. I think that's one skill that is going to it applies to everything in dreaming, lucid dreaming, and especially for incubation. Um, and then the other thing is like, I was talking in Discord about this the other day. I try to bilocate. So in other words, like when I'm thinking of doing something in a dream, I'm here right now, but I'm also in that dream at the same time, where I'm holding both awarenesses, not just the dream, but also here. I'm awake, because there's an aspect of that when you get lucid as well, because you know the difference. It's the difference between being awake and being asleep, being in a dream. So those two things I think are the biggest, like foundational skills for this stuff.
That's cool. Thank you. Yeah, I do agree that we have been talking about incubation, like not directly always, but like yes.
Yeah.
Red, do you want to close up with something as well?
I mean, it was cool hearing about, the examples of pretty much incubating in dreams and all the other thoughts that were brought up, and some about just the community in general.
Yeah. Amina, you can
Yeah.
go on.
Yeah, just kind of my closing thoughts. I think I, I appreciate all of you for coming on. It's been really interesting. I think we covered a lot of good topics on just different ways of incubation and things like that. I think it boils down to really just trial and error, finding what works for you and falling in love with all of your dreams. It's great to have like goals and reasons for getting into dream work, but really just writing your dreams down and like opening up that conversation with your subconscious, which anybody can do. Whether you're a natural lucid dreamer or you haven't remembered a dream in 10 years, I think like, these things are important to just kind of build that conversation and kind of normalize it. But yeah, it's been really great, and thank you all for all the amazing input.
Yeah, no, thank you, Amina, for hosting this space. And what you just said just kind of brought kind of the strangest term to my mind, global dream recall. Like bring up the global dream recall rate by bringing up the amount of people who talk about dreams and the amount that dreams are talked about.
Yes,
No,
I
I
love
don't know
that.
what that
That's
is.
good.
I mean, I think it
Let's
makes sense
go.
because talking about things like this, even if you just casually stumble upon a stream or something related to dreams, you might start thinking, why don't I remember my dreams? Or, oh, I had a dream once. Everybody has something that intrigues them to dreams. So I think the more we do things like this, we may not feel it in the moment, but I do think it makes a global impact on that scale as we start to like just normalize these things and make people feel like it's not crazy to talk about dreams. So yeah, that alone can help you remember a dream if you just start start thinking about it or watch a video or something. So I love that. I think it came up at the right time.
Yeah, no, I think that it was pretty random, but I think that sort of concept is something, you know what, which both LDD and LDI kind of seem to be thinking about. So yeah, no, this was an amazing session. I think we got to so many different topics. Who knew that incubation could be so, you know, I had the idea that it was broad, but it became very, very, very broad, which is definitely a positive. So before we go, I'd like to end with, of course, telling people to go to the official Lucid Dream Initiative YouTube channel, where there's lots of cool stuff uploaded, including past LDD content, as well as some other stuff. Yes, that's how it is written, if you just put that in. Thank you, Amina. And so hopefully soon we can, like, you know, live stream on there if we get enough of a following. But for now, it's an amazing sort of like place to find resources. So we are doing this roundtable once every month on the first Saturday of every month, so feel free to tune in. Next Saturday we have something at 2 p.m. EST planned on the topic of essentially the definition of lucidity itself, which should be incredibly interesting, I believe. That being said, thank you to everyone who's here. Thank you, Amina, for hosting the room and all of the streams. Thank you to DJ and Red, and also Stifle, who isn't here, for talking and sharing incredible opinions and interesting opinions and bringing up cool perspectives. It's always appreciated. So, yay. We shall talk again in a week. Thank you to everyone
I'm
for
looking
listening.
forward to it as well.
All right. See you.